Hey guys, Jacob Dupre here. I'm at Sweetwater and I want to talk to you about this really cool exercise to help you with improvising. It's something I've used to help my own playing. I've used it to teach, especially to a lot of younger students, and it's been very effective. The root of the whole exercise is stripping away all the notes. Whether you know a lot of scales or you don't, or you have a lot of chops or you don't, it doesn't matter. This helps you be creative with a lot less, which I think is going to make you a lot more musical when you improvise. So the way this starts is you only get one note. And when you get one note, it means you got to use a lot more rhythm, right? Because you don't have a lot of notes, you don't have a lot of scales to run or anything like that. And as one of my teachers in college told me, the three most important things in music are rhythm, rhythm, and rhythm, in that order. So don't forget that. There'll be a test after. So yeah, so just one note, and you got to use rhythm. And what I would encourage you to do when you start is try to be sparse and try to repeat things. Don't just, get motor mouth and just go and go like run-on sentences. Try to be musical, create a story. It's all about creating a story as well. So I have a track here set up. It's just a swing track, a blues. If you do know about the blues, it's okay if you don't, but it's just a 1-4-5 blues in C, and I've just got a walking bass line and drums. So here I'm going to demonstrate that first part. I'm just going to use a G above middle C, and I'm just going to improvise only using that note. All right, here we go. Cool. So, hopefully you noticed I repeated myself. There's sort of I had a similar spacing. I left some spaces in the similar places. I kind of played a statement, then waited, then said another statement. You can think a lot about it like language. It's sort of like I said some words and I took a breath, said some words, took a breath, and I repeated myself. So now you continue that and you can add on notes to it. So I should say too, for teachers, and as I said, I've used this as a teaching tool. It works great, really great for young students. I've seen it work tons of times. I've actually taught some middle school classes very recently with this exercise, and it helps because a lot of times, which I'm not a fan of, is you give a student a scale, right? And you say, okay, improvise. That doesn't usually work because they're not really using their ears. They're not learning how to be musical. So if you say you get one note, and you have to play with good time, and you have to use your ears, and you have to use rhythm, and all the things we're just talking about, it's going to be much more effective as a starting point. So now, you've got your students say to play that one note exercise. Now you say, okay, now you get two notes. So now you get, say, a G and a B flat concert. So G and B flat, right here. All right, so let me demonstrate that. All right, so maybe I cheated a little bitty bit by using the G that's an octave above, but that's okay, you can do that. Maybe if you have students that maybe that's a range they can't deal with, that's okay, but especially for keyboard players, feel free to, you could do this if you wanted to. So see, just with one note, that was just a G. There was no other pitches, but I got, I think, a lot of expression and musicality out of that. So that just goes again to prove that you don't need a lot of notes to be musical. So now after that, you can say, okay, add another note and another note after that. So say I add a C, so then they would be able to do this. I'm kind of already, and what's sometimes hard for me is to make this simpler so that someone that's just starting can have a place to jump in, but the rhythms don't have to be complicated. So for instance, you could just be using whole notes, you know, so, or really long notes rather than a lot of syncopated swing rhythms. So say you do this. Right, so that was really simple. A lot of long notes, you know, just don't make it complicated. Now, this is swing, this is jazz, and it works well for that, but you can use it in other styles too, because there's improvising not just in jazz, there's improvising in rock and country music and all kind of stuff. And I know what you might be thinking. If you're a more advanced player, you're like, oh, I know more stuff than this. I can play all these scales and all this stuff. But I find that even though I've amassed a lot of material in my journey through learning music, sometimes I get in a rut and I feel like I'm getting motor mouth, maybe motor fingers, and I'm just playing too much and I'm not being musical, and I think I need something to like bring me down. I need something to just give me something simple, something that I can make some music with, and that's why I love this exercise. If I ever feel like I'm having a hard time being creative, I'll come back to this exercise, stuff like this that limits me, and it really helps me, even though I've been playing a pretty long time. So again, I was saying with other styles, it's going to work good with rock, for instance. And I have a track here. I'll pull up like an organ sound. So now let's say I'll add another note just for fun. I'll add an E natural. So now I have G, B flat, C, and E. And I'll probably throw in an E flat too. So just those notes. So this would be a little more far along, and probably by this point, if you're using more of these notes, you understand the chord changes a little bit more about how these notes will work with the changes. But always use your ear. Again, it doesn't matter if you don't know a lot about music theory. If it sounds good, it is good. That's what I like to say. All right, here we go. Right, so I added a double octave there, and piano players, you can experiment with this too. You can always, and it's a good way to practice, is to try to see if your right hand can play what your left hand can play. But I tried to keep that simple. Again, there were some parts where there was this thing I did here where I was doing this. And I repeated it for a while and built up some tension, and then I took a break. And that's so important. Now we're kind of getting into how to build a solo and all that. But this helps you do that too, because it's making you use less notes, so you're more limited, and so you want to try to use more space. It's going to help you. It's going to help it go somewhere. You don't want to give it all away right away. It works well for rock, like I was saying. So guitar players, you have, especially, and there are other instruments that have the ability to this too, but you can bend notes, right? You can slide up and down your strings. So you can do a lot with just one note. So if you don't mind me playing a guitar patch on this keyboard, I don't want to offend anybody, but I can show you a little bit with bending notes. You could just sit on one note all day long and just rock out. So let me show you what that would be like. So you know, and then 5 courses later, you can add all that other junk in there. But that's the exercise. Use it how you want it, manipulate it, teach it to your friends, teach it to your students. If you're a teacher, try it in your own playing. I really hope it helps you. Please leave some comments after you're done watching the video. We'd love to hear what you think about it. I'd love to hear about you using it, or if it works for you or somebody else. Would love to know. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks so much. Play you out. Here we go.